مساكم الله بالخير. When I saw the topic was going to be about investors and raising funds, بقولها لكم يعني من البداية, it's a very long and painful process, and it's not something that comes easy. On average, it takes يعني 12 to 18 months to raise funds in Silicon Valley and more mature ecosystems. فتخيلوا انتوا هني في الخليج في البحرين, where you're faced with a lot of traditional investors, people who want to only put money into real estate and safe investments, while you're looking for more like venture capitalists. But it is doable. You can do it. It's not something that's out of the ordinary. There are a lot of startups here in Bahrain that raised. Maybe you've heard of Eat app, and just now I heard of a new app also that raised a large amount. Me personally, for both startups I'm involved in, one of them we were closing a round of above $3 million at a very high valuation, more than 15 million, and another one we're closing also at around the same amount for a higher valuation. So it is doable, but it takes a lot of time, and you have to be very patient, and you have to be resilient in doing so. So today what I wanted to do is, first of all, I'll give you a couple of tips on how we were able to raise these funds. And second thing is, I'll show you the pitch deck that actually got me the investment. So it's going to be a very personal presentation. So I'll show you the first pitch I started with 2 years ago when I started the business, how it changed, and then how it became better and better, and then I'll show you the pitch that actually got me the funds. So I hope it's going to be. كلكم تسمعون؟ Okay. Okay. شغال مفروض. وين ممكن؟ مو شغال؟ اوكي. تسمعوني الحين؟ As I said, I'm going to show you some pitch decks, really cool pitch decks that I did for 1GCC. 1GCC is an employment platform that we started a couple of years ago. You're going to learn more about the startup when I do the pitch deck, inshallah. But in the beginning, before I start, I want to thank Tamkeen for this opportunity and what they're doing for the entrepreneurs and the community. It's really refreshing. We need more of these initiatives. I want to congratulate you on taking this step and becoming an entrepreneur and starting your own business. It's very important that we have more job creators rather than job seekers. We have a lot of job seekers in Bahrain today. We have the youth unemployment has reached around 30%. Those who graduate out of university, 50% of them can't even land a job interview. So we need more people who create jobs. And we need more successful businesses. So it's a very tough choice that you've taken, but I can tell you for a fact, it's very, very rewarding. Once you have your business up and running, once you have a following, once you have people who are using your services, I cannot explain to you how gratifying that is. في البداية طبعا my way of I know that you're all writing your business plans. My approach in a business plan is very different. I don't like to خلاص أنزل template online وابتدي أسوي البزنس and then see whether it's worth it or not. لا, لأن especially when you're approaching an investor, the business plan is not going to get you the investment. What's going to get you the investment is the pitch deck. Does everyone know what a pitch deck is? By show of hands, who knows what a pitch deck is? Have you written a pitch deck? Have you written your pitch deck? Yes? Yeah? The pitch deck is something when you go to an investor and you present to him your idea. You want to sell him on the investment. You want to sell him on your company. By the way, when you're doing the when you're pitching to an investor, they're not going to look at your business plan first. They're not going to look at your pitch deck first. The first person they're going to look at is you, your personality, how knowledgeable you are in your own business. أنا أشوف وايد entrepreneurs, they start and the first thing they do is they read this book for Elon Musk, Umar Riman, they read like 10 books and they go, yalla, I'm going to start my business. And then when you ask them about their business, their field, they know nothing about it. And they think, khalas, it's a process that I have to take and it's a journey, I have to do this, that, and then I'll reach. La. You need to know your business. You need to know everything there is to know about your business. Yani today, if you ask me anything about employment in the GCC, I will give you statistics, numbers off the top of my head. I know, yani that's number one. Number two, in raising funds, and not many people look at this, the most important thing is the market size. Because that's what's going to validate your whole business plan. If your market size is $2 million and you're telling people I'm going to make 5 million, well, it's not doable. Your market size has to be huge. It has to be $1 billion and above. عشان لين تروح حق investor and you tell him I'm going to make, والله 1% of the market, it's a sizable number. It's a number that's going to make a big business. That doesn't mean in your business, or if the market size is small, that you have to change your business. لا, maybe you just have to change the way you look at it. فأنا يوم إحنا بدينا 1GCC, the idea was very simple. So الحين ببتدي لكم بقول لكم my background and how I reached to starting 1GCC. And I studied finance back in university. I graduated. I started a car rental business. The car rental business was doing amazing. But طبعا my biggest mistake was if I was making 1,000 dinars today, I was spending 1,000 dinars today. I wasn't saving any money. I wasn't even doing proper accountancy, even though my background was in finance and accounting. فيوميا للأسف يعني في 2011 شوي صارت أزمة في السوق. سياييري كلها توقفت قدام المحل. ما قعدت أأجر ولا شيء. وللحين قاعد أدفع أقساط على السيايير. And that broke me. And I had to stop the business. I had to start something else. I started another business. Again, I didn't have much experience. I failed. And this is not something you should be ashamed of. This is something you should really embrace. You have to fail once or twice. And I've seen a lot of smart entrepreneurs with very great ideas. And after meeting them, somebody would ask me, what do you think of them and their business? And the first thing I say, oh, they need to fail once or twice. They need to feel what it is that, يعني, you need to know how it could go wrong to avoid it. حتى توني كنت أقول حق أستاذ حمد إنه يعني I had one of the investors ask me flat out, how many times did you fail? وقلت له, well, I failed twice, 3 times. These are the stories. And he said, if you told me you didn't fail a single time, I wouldn't have even considered you for investment. That's something you have to embrace. After these 2 businesses, especially that my mess up was accountancy, I got a job as an accountant in a big, يعني it was a big investment firm. Alhamdulillah, I worked very hard. I even reached at some point to CEO level, an investment company في السعودية. During that time, I was making a lot of money. I was very comfortable, but I was still young. I didn't know how to manage a board of directors. And again, I didn't, it started becoming not so great, and then I had to take the decision, and you know what, I need things to go my way. I need to do my own business. And really, really, it was one of the hardest decisions that I had to make, and to let go of a very comfortable salary and being able to afford so many nice things, up to going to خلاص, bootstrapping, not spending money. For a couple of years, I was in my house with only just a couch and a TV. But in the end, it was very rewarding. لأن now I'm doing what I love. I wake up every morning very happy. There's more stress. There's other people who depend on you and on your decisions. So your decisions actually affect their lives. And at some point, you're going to have to hire people and convince them to leave their jobs and join your business while you know and you only have funds that will last you for another 3 months. These are some tough decisions you'll have to make. But in the end, as I said, it's very, very rewarding. Anyways, without further ado, I'll start. I'll show you guys the first presentation. And as we go through the presentation, please stop me at any time if you have questions. These are presentations I've done to raise funds. So anyways, while I was in the Saudi company, بس okay, عندي الوايرلس هنا. While I was in the Saudi company, something very interesting happened. إن السعودية وزارة العمل قرروا إن they don't want to issue visas or work permits directly anymore. They wanted to outsource the whole process. So قالوا instead of us issuing the visas, وصارت وايد لعبة, so a lot of people with a lot of power used to give visas to people, like 50, 60 visas, and you know the whole free visa scandals and how much money they make out of it. So they wanted to stop all of that, and they said they're gonna privatize this whole process. They gave 18 companies around 500,000 work permits each. And we were overlooking, we had one of those companies. That's one of our investments. And at the time, I was heavily involved in strategy and business development of that specific company. So when I was going out to companies who wanted 3,000, 4,000 work permits because they were hiring construction workers and whatnot, they still had to maintain a certain rate of Saudization. And the real tough thing was not finding the work permits for them. They even had their own work permits. The tough challenge for them was finding Saudis. It turned out that the problem was much bigger than I even thought. One of my clients needed to hire 300 Saudis immediately to get the other 3,000 workers he needed, because he just got awarded a project from the government, and if he doesn't start in the next 2 months, he's going to lose the contract. So it's a lot of stress on them. So we researched, what are the solutions? What can we do for these companies? We found out that any GCC national is counted towards Saudization. So عشان شي بتشوفين منصة خلجنة الوظائف, that's what we called it in the beginning. It's no more about سعودة, it's خلجنة. They need any GCC national to fill these roles. And then we started saying, okay, digging in deep. لقينا okay, most of the people who graduate say, I cannot find a job because I don't have what we call wasta. And now, after being so heavily involved in that process, I found out that the wasta happens not because of the companies. The wasta is happening because of the job seekers. And 95, according, there was a study by ENY, 95% of those who graduate depend on family and friends in finding employment. They never go online, apply for jobs. They don't even know how to write CVs sometimes. It's a big mess. And Saudi, their youth unemployment is higher than Bahrain. Today it's at 42%. So it's very high. It was a big problem. But it was a very weird problem. لأن we were creating so many jobs, yet unemployment is going up and up and up. So it was a very unique situation. So the only thing that was missing was just matching these job opportunities with the job seekers. So we said, okay, why not create a platform? They said, oh, there's LinkedIn, there's Bait. LinkedIn and Bait were not offering solutions that were specific for GCC nationals. Later on, we found out it's not GCC nationals that are the problem. The problem is that they are under the age of, let's say, around 30 or 25, which means they are millennials. Millennials, you have to talk to them in a very different way. It's not just, yalla, I'm going to make a website, come upload your CV, and the company is going to find you immediately. La, we had to do something unique. We had to do some things like skill matching. What is skill matching? Well, out of all those who graduate, including me in finance and accountancy, like every single Bahraini, we're all finance and accounting for some reason, 63% of us are irrelevant to the job market. By the way, احنا alhamdulillah, and that's banking and finance. If you go to Saudi, 40% of those who graduate are in humanitarian studies and Islamic studies. So where do you hire them? Especially when you're investing $1 trillion riyals into the infrastructure, you need civil engineers, you need other kind of skills. So one of the clients came up and said, okay, I need 300 civil engineers. no way you'll find. You have to overpay them to get them if you want them to be Saudi. And they said, okay, but what do we do? I'm like, why do you need so many civil engineers? That doesn't make sense. They said, we just need people to operate AutoCAD. I'm like, fine. We have thousands of girls who graduated in interior design and they all know how to use AutoCAD. Why don't you hire them and see how it works? And they hired more than 200 Saudi girls and they were able to get their visas. Everybody was happy. It was a win-win situation. So that was a big example of not job matching, but matching skills. So how do you do a platform that matches skills? How do you build a platform that's easy for people to use, to sign up, and then you want their engagement to be high? So we started introducing things like gamification and all sorts of cool things. But we were catering to a specific problem, and we were trying to solve it. And this is where I get back to the market size issue. And I went and I looked at the market size. And the market size was around, at the time, 400,000 dinars that was being paid to job platforms. 400,000 dinars did not even open the door of an investor. Khalas. So now I had to figure out a way to find a much bigger job market. That did not mean I changed my business model, but I'm going to make it smarter. So I started saying, you know what? The platform is not only going to source CVs, it's also going to replace recruiters. We're also going to do HR consultancy through it. So we're going to build smart algorithms and machine learning where the system by itself, the hiring manager, let's say a finance manager wants to, instead of him talking to the HR manager talks to the recruiters go to the recruiter agencies. By the time you get people, they are absolutely horrible. We wanted is the finance manager comes, he posts the job on 1GCC and immediately tells him these are the best 5 candidates. These 10 are okay, but they need upskilling in these areas and so on. So then my job market became much, much bigger, my target market. And then instead of 400,000, now I have 40,000 potential clients that I can dig into. And I have all sorts of revenue I can make out of my database and my services. And we'll talk about that. But what I want to say here is your job market has to be, your target market has to be huge. The market that you're gonna, your business you're venturing in has to be big. If you want to raise a lot of money, for me, the target market has to be above $1 billion. And by the way, it's not hard. You can find, you can find ways to get there. Why would that help a lot? And when you're writing your business plan, to oversimplify things, you're looking into 2 things. You're looking into your revenue and you're looking into your expenses. So your expenses, they're not going to change much, صح? They're not going to reject your expenses unless you put yourself a salary of 10,000 dinars. Then they will be like, روح الحق أهلك لا تجيني. But if you put reasonable salaries for yourself, if you put reasonable rent, I'm not going to take an office in the financial harbor. I'll take an office somewhere decent, especially if you're not client-facing. You don't need to have a fancy office. If you just keep your expenses in check, nobody's going to really touch that. What they're going to question you and what they're going to scrutinize on is your revenue. How are you going to assure us that you're going to make this much money? And unless you have a big enough market, you're not going to be able to make revenue because you're going to have a lot of people competing for that $1. So you need to have a big market so you can, so even if you grab a small share, it's still worth it. You're still generating enough revenue to keep your company going, to ensure growth. And then later on, you can look into achieving more and more, and your company can become, inshallah, worth billions and billions of dollars. We're yet to see a unicorn come out of Bahrain, but inshallah, one of you guys can achieve that. So yeah, this is the first presentation I ever made for this project. I'll just make it a little bigger from that side, it's easier. So this presentation, I presented it to all the under secretaries of labor and the heads of chambers of commerce. And I'll tell you from now, it's a horrible presentation. First of all, we didn't pay much attention to the branding. I just put a blackboard in the background. It doesn't look nice. You'll see how we paid a lot of, because you're going to an investor, by the way, you're selling yourself, you're selling your company. They have to see nice packaging. So until you can go to the supermarket and you want to buy, I don't know, a toothbrush, you're most likely going to choose the nicest toothbrush based on how it looks, how it's packaged, is it colorful, does it grab my attention? So you have to really, a lot of people don't pay attention to this, but it's really important in trying to secure investment. And I was using this presentation for investors. And the biggest mistake I did was put that slide in. So now, by the way, there is no capacity. Capacity is just a holding company. Now we focus on one GCC. This is the old logo, by the way, everything changed. And this is a very traditional way of starting your presentation. Oh, we are, and I'm here to talk about one GCC. But I went there and I said, oh, we are capacity and we want to do these gamification stuff, gamified and engaged capacity. We're going to bring systems and do this and do that. Immediately from the first slide, they'll probably kick you out. And plus, with investors, you don't have much time. You're going to have maximum of 5-10 minutes. You have to convince them that you're giving them a really good idea. And then the second slide, another huge, huge mistake. There's a lot of text. You don't want them to read your presentation. You want them to listen to you. So this was bad. This was bad. This is the way it looks. I'll have another slide, or the last one that got me the funding, and I'll show you how I showed the percentages. Plus, I'm giving here too much information they don't need to know about the business. And this has nothing to do with the business of one GCC. I'm talking about unemployment. I'm talking about how it's a business opportunity. That's what I want to tell the investor. He's not the government. He doesn't care about the unemployment rates. He wants to know how he's going to make money. So I have to focus on how do I convince you that this problem is not a problem, it's an opportunity for you to make money. And those are the numbers I should be focusing on. And also the display, you just lose them, it gets boring. You want them to be excited, you want them to feel your passion. This is a bit better, but again, it's a bunch of numbers they don't want to see. And then, okay, the biggest database for GCC nationals. We are doing, we're going to put all the job opportunities. We're going to do skill matching. We're going to help them. Okay, how are you doing it? I'm not telling them that here. Where did I reach in doing so? How many job seekers do I have today? All of that is not shown here. And that's why, to the investor, خلاص, I went through 75% of my presentation and I still didn't get any of his interest. Then I showed them, okay, how it looks like, that's fine. They need to see that. You start explaining the screenshots, what they mean, what they do. Maybe here is fine, but this presentation will not get you the investment. This slide is for sure will lose you the investment, because here you're telling them that we have all these different partners that we're relying on to build our platform. So the first thing they're going to ask you is, if you need all these people to help you, if one of them leaves, what are you going to do then? What if they take your idea and do it by themselves? And that we had to learn the hard way. We had to learn, and it's not always good to depend on partners. It's much better to do everything in-house, build it yourself, especially if you're in tech. By the way, how many people here are in tech businesses? Okay, so most of you, that's very good, very refreshing. Then I'll tell you about the other startup we're doing, which is an app, and I'll tell you more about how we were successful there as well. But anyways, so you shouldn't rely on too many partners. Having partners is fine, but not 6 of them, and you don't show it to the investors. And then also, you don't really need to show them timelines, because most likely these timelines are going to change and they're going to hold them against you. Anyways, that was a failed presentation. I'll show you another failed presentation. So in this presentation, I decided to get the help of a graphic designer. So now it's starting to look nicer. The logo starts to look nicer. By the way, this is ماخوذ من الشماغ. تعرفون الشماغ ورا الكروسنج. This is it. So someone came and made it look so nice, but still we had a problem. We were still giving way too much information. Information that the investor really doesn't want to hear. And our story. Investor, okay, they want to know where you came from, but it has to be very specific to the business. What do you add to the business, you as a co-founder? What are you adding? What's your value added? That's what they want to know. How are you going to drive the business forward? Again, you're seeing, for instance, this $80 billion, because we have, touch technology doesn't always work with you. So the $80 billion is how much we lose out of our economy because we're not hiring enough GCC nationals. Does the investor care? Not really. It's not going into his pocket. So he wants to see, how am I going to make money out of this? See, now 2 presentations, and none of you still know how one GCC is making money. And that's the most important thing. So again, okay, we talk about solutions. We show that now the screenshots became much nicer. We have a designer on board, but still. And then we show a huge comparative between us and LinkedIn and Bait, but still, it's too much information. TMI. The market opportunity, it's not clear. Okay, there's 1 million companies registered in the GCC, in Saudi, with the Federation of GCC Chambers. So, okay, you have 1 million companies that are also audited, which means they are sizable enough. But how many of them need my service? How can I convince the investor of that? So again, this, and this is the team. Now we started putting other stuff. The partners became much less, but still, this didn't get me an investment. It didn't even get me close. By the way, these are bios, are long bios of each single team member, what they've done in their past. Again, we cut that all out in the pitch deck that got us the investment. We spoke about, okay, this person is going to add this to the company. This person is adding this to the company. This is what they wanted to see. Once I pitched to 15 investors at the same night. So if you're approaching 10 investors, you need to approach a lot of investors. And I'll tell you what, there's a lot of investors here in the GCC. I was fundraising for 2 startups, and I made sure that we kept the fundraising activities completely separate because it was 2 different set of partners. And during the whole process, not a single time did we both speak to the same investor. So there are a lot of investors out there. But you have to target the right investors for your business. So for instance, for one GCC, we're targeting family businesses in Saudi because these are guys who need work permits, so then they can go to the government and say, oh, by the way, I just helped employ, I don't know how many thousand Saudis. So then they say, okay, fine, you know what, take more work permits. This was our selling point. But in the end, the people who we raised from is completely different. It's a weird story. Maybe one day I'll sit and I'll talk to you guys about it. So again, I start with our story. That's fine, but they don't want to know so much about your story. We brought in a consultant to help us in the fundraising. The consultant was very good, but again, he didn't have much experience in how to market a tech investment. Also, they were so whenever you go and take someone's advice, make sure they have experience in your business and what you're doing. So again, we just go on and on. It's a very long presentation, you lose their interest, you tell them about all these gaps and different things, and you find out that they don't want to know all this information. They want it to be clean and simple. And you see the presentation just goes on. By now, by the way, we had clients, so now you see this slide up, but still, it wasn't the best presentation. Some slides were okay, like this one. So we had testimonials of like the VP of nationalization Qatar Airways, the co-founder of RBL Group, who are really the front runners of modern HR. So we had good recognition, but still the market size, everything just didn't make sense. And then we go into financials, and this guy is obviously not Khaliji, so they even start nitpicking at these pictures, and you know, they ask you, what are you doing? They make fun of you, so you have to also have a very thick skin. And then the business model, this is too complicated for a 5-minute presentation. And then you show them all these numbers. They want to know, how are they going to make money? But in the end, this was a nice touch, I think. Join the movement, join 1GCC. So it was a very social kind of presentation. Again, investors want to see something business-oriented. So now, I'll show you the one that actually got us the investment. And start from here. So now it's got even cleaner. Now we went landscape, not portrait, because that's how you're presenting. Now it looks nicer. We got another graphic designer to come in and help. Now we start by saying who we are as a company. This is what we do. This is the slide where I take the time to tell them about our story and how we started. Well, we started this way. The same story I told you about the Saudi investment company, how they were, my co-founders, by the way, worked with me in that company, and then how we joined and how we started this. I take a maximum of 10 to 15 seconds talking about that, and then I move to the next slide. Then I tell them about the market size. So this is a huge number for them. Now, they're looking at $756 million that I can tap into. And this was in 2016. Of course, you have to give them the source, where it's coming from. So in 2017, and actually in 2018, it reached almost 900 plus. By 2020, it's going over $1 billion. Now, where is this money being spent? 40% of it is in Saudi, and you're, or even more, a bit more than 40%. And you're talking about around, more than $400 million being spent on HR consultancy and recruiting in Saudi on a workforce of Saudis who represent 40%. So you can imagine how much money is being spent on upskilling Saudis alone. So now it's a huge number. Now it's more exciting for the investor. It's like, okay, tell me more, man. So then you go to the next slide. Okay, this is the opportunity. This is the problem. So you see, it's very clean. So now the Saudization rates have went up from 20 to 70% on average. That means the private sector is going to have to employ over 6 million Saudis over the next 4 years, but only 5% of job seekers are available to source online. So the problem, the opportunity is simple, which means the solution is very simple. They know what it is in their head, but I tell them about the current solutions. So now I tell them, okay, so the strongest contenders are LinkedIn and Bait. The problem with LinkedIn, they have anti-discrimination laws. You cannot search by nationality. I personally have been using LinkedIn recruiter license, and it's expensive. It's around $12,000 to $15,000 a year. And when I called LinkedIn, I said, guys, I need to hire Saudis in finance, this, that. Can you please help me out? And this was all an exercise to see what our competitors are doing. So sometimes you even need to subscribe to your competitors and see exactly how they work. You act as if you are a client to see how they are working and what they're doing. So LinkedIn told me, is like, listen, we have anti-discrimination laws, we cannot help you, but I have a solution. I said, okay, what's the solution? He sends me a whole list of Saudi family last names, Dosari, Shaybani, I don't know what, and he says, in the keyword, put Dosari plus finance, Da'tabi plus finance, Shaybani plus finance, Marshinu plus finance. And then that's how you start looking for them. It was so bad, it was exhausting, it didn't get me anywhere. So then I knew that LinkedIn is no longer a competitor. Of course, I don't take that much time explaining to the investor. This story I told the investor because then they start laughing with you, throw in a couple of jokes, it works. And then the second contender is bait. So when I tell you, when I was saying in the beginning, it's fine to read about entrepreneurs and what they've done to grow their business, but you need to know your market and you need to know your business. So we were digging so deep into what our competitors are doing and what their plans are for the future. So we found out that Bait, for instance, are saying, okay, our plan is to go globally. So we're going to let the GCC go. So they're not focusing on the GCC anymore. So that was good for us. And then Bait.com have failed miserably in the region. They've been losing clients over the Saudization because they only have around 600,000 GCC nationals on their platform. And most of them are repetitive. So and they're leaving the region. So there's a vacuum. We can come and fill it up. So this was good for us. And you tell the investor, you don't have to worry about the competition. One GCC, on the other hand, we solve these issues. We're already backed by the GCC government. The ministries of labor already know about us. The general secretariat of the GCC is on board. He's helping us. And you need these strategic alliances. You need to get people on your board, even if they are board members who don't own any shares of your company. You can do that, and you can get them as advisors. You need connections. You need people to help you out. Don't do your business on your own. You will get nowhere. You need a lot. I have people on my speed dialogue. I call them up. I saw this investor today. He said, no, what do I do? And they will open their heart. They will give you advice. One of the people who really helped me out through the journey, so I spoke to him a few times, and he visited our office, is Muhammad Ja'far, the guy who exited Talabat for over $200 million. And he was willing. You'd be surprised by how willing people are to pick up your phone and help you out and give you advice. And then I tell him a little about the solutions. You see some text. This text, I would never read it to them. They would never read it. This text is for them to read because I'll send them the pitch deck. But what they need to see is, okay, we're doing skill matching, it's user-friendly, we assist companies in setting up their profiles, we do career counseling, gamification, all of that. And then you show them just a few screenshots. You don't need to show them 10 slides of how your platform is going to look like. But when you show them a screenshot, make sure you're smart about it. So I'd open this slide, for instance, and I'd go here and I'll zoom in on this guy. And I'll tell them, we spent so much time and effort thinking about every little thing, everything in the platform, that we know that a recruiter takes 6 seconds to look at your profile and decide whether he wants to read through the whole thing or not. So the 6 seconds, he wants to see around 4 or 5 things. We put them all here. So this is his name, how he looks like. We thought that people wouldn't put their profile pictures. We're very surprised that people are so willing to do so, especially with Instagram, Snapchat. I think it broke that kind of, I don't know what it was. Was it fear that they don't want to put their pictures? I don't know. We put their industry, years of experience, and what he's good at. So we put all the information here, so then the recruiter takes one look and decides whether he wants to read it or take an action, move it to a long list or a short list. So we told them that we put a lot of thought into the platform, but I don't need to go very deep because he doesn't want to know all the details about your platform. When he's interested in you, he's going to send people to do a whole due diligence on your platform, how it works, what's the technology and stuff. That's a discussion that's going to come up later on. But it's at that point, you just want to sell him on the idea, and you want to sell him on the team, and you want to sell him on the people who are behind this. And then you go to the revenue model. So remember the first one, the business model, how complicated it was, so many texts and stuff like that. Well, now, even this doesn't come into the revenue model. It's just these 3 sentences. We are a SaaS-based subscription model. Every year, a company pays us 1,850 dinars to have access. This is how we make our money. It's simple, it's easy. Here I just talk about why we're offering a freemium alternative. And then now you want to grab their attention more. So now you go into the traction of your platform. So you tell them, okay, we started in July. We had 5,000 job seekers and 35 companies registered. In November, when I was doing this presentation, at the time we had 28,000 job seekers and 164 companies. And it's really, really cool that during the discussion, you're actually getting more job seekers and more companies. This is when the investor he's going to call you a month later. How are you doing now? Oh, we have 2,000 more job seekers. We have more companies joining. Of course, now if you go to the platform, you'll see it's in a standstill. The reason is we grew the database big enough to have a test market. So now we're finalizing the final platform, and then we're going out very heavy with the marketing, and you'll see why now. So now you show him how am I going to get to. Now we told our investors we're going to have 1.5 million job seekers by the end of this year. So he's going to tell you, okay, how the hell are you going to get that number? So it's very easy. We show him exactly how we did the 28,000. So you tell them, okay, we do from targeted ads on social media, Facebook, Instagram. We reach 28,000. Then we say, okay, we calculate our acquisition cost. So our acquisition cost was below 50 cents at the time. And we tell them, because of this is how much we need to spend. And so 50 cents per job seeker, this is how we will get so many profiles and so many people on our platform. So you give them direct answers. I'm able to tell him exactly what I need to do. Of course, this is just a brief, but we detail the whole marketing plan, social media plan. We even show them in our action plan, these are the posts we're going to put. This is why we're putting these posts, because when we tried the other posts, this is the kind of reaction we got. It wasn't so good. So you go into a level of detail for your investor so that he wants to actually put the money and effort. Then we tell them about how we get into companies. How do we target companies? How do we reach them? So we hired a whole sales team. Then we show the team of co-founders. So the co-founder, our chief executive officer is Dr. Fatma. So we tell them, so instead of showing a whole bio of what she used to do, oh, she was here and then she was dean of this university and then 10 years in a minister position. No, here it simply says she has a good relationship with the ministers in the GCC. So she's helping us get their support, helping us with government support, helping us with getting the proper strategic alliances we need. Here it talks about me. So it specifically says that I used to work on one of those companies that had to do with the Saudization. Here it talks about Angelo. Angelo is heading the recruitment process of HP, SAP, and Fujitsu in Japan. So he comes from a very strong HR technology background, and he's our CTO. As soon as I get here, by the way, each and every investor asks me, you're hiring GCC nationals for companies, and your CTO is not a GCC national. So immediately, what do I tell them? It's like, listen, I'm not preaching. I'm telling you there's a business opportunity, and this is the guy who's going to get me there. So immediately they start thinking, okay, these guys are thinking about the business. They're not thinking about doing social work. And then we tell them about Mohammed Zaman. Mohammed Zaman, he's our chief marketing, and his background is in the Federation of GCC Chambers, where he worked with all the Saudi companies. So it's easy for him to approach them and talk to them. So now you just showed him your business, how there's an opportunity, how we're making so much money, and how we have the right team to take it forward. So now you got their interest. And then you go into, this I cannot show, unfortunately, but you get into the financials and investment requirements. The financials and investment requirements, this is where you show, this is how much revenue I'm going to make. How are you going to make this revenue? Oh, this is the market size. I've already spoken, I already have 164 employers on my platform using my services today. Even though I have a small database, we had at the time, the General Organization for Social Insurance in Saudi hired 33 people out of our database because our system was easy to use. We were very helpful. Till today, I think we've helped hire more than 500 GCC nationals. So now we have a story to tell. I have testimonials for companies who say, not only is this platform great, but we're willing to pay for your services. And that's how you prove that, okay, this revenue I can achieve. The expenses, trust me, you're not going to get a lot of, unless, I mean, you're into retail or you're into F&B or different industries where the expenses really matter. But if you're in tech, they're not going to look much into your expenses. For a simple reason, is because your expenses are usually going to look like this. It's going to go up a little because you have more customers, so you're going to hire more customer service agents or people who are attending to the service. You're going to hire more developers. But mostly it's not going to be completely flat, but it's going to go up slowly. But your revenue has to look like this, like there's a lot of growth. It's a hockey stick. My other advice, make sure your revenue doubles each year. So this is for tech people. The other industries I don't know much about. But for tech, make sure, okay, if year one, I'm saying my revenue is $2 million, year two, it has to be 4, year 3, it has to be 8, year 4, it has to be 16. Because in any case, it's all forecasts, and it's all predictions. So if you're going to give that, you have to make sure, first of all, that you can achieve it, and second of all, that it has to be, like, for the investor, he has to see that this is something that's, okay, very viable. And this advice, by the way, I took it from someone in Seed Stars. This is a guy who raised, in one round, I think he raised $20 million just last year. And I actually took it, and I did that, and it actually worked. People were looking at it and saying, wow, okay, this is a good opportunity. But, so the presentation is over. But now you're going to come into a really sensitive last point in your business plan or pitch, is how do you value your company? And that's usually the hardest thing to do, is how do you value your company, and how do you convince the investor that your company is actually worth this much? I'll give you a few tips, but we don't have much time. But I'm doing a workshop with Road, BDB, on the 25th in our office in Level Z, specifically on company valuation, financial valuation of a tech startup, and how to properly evaluate it, and how to convince investors that this is how much your company is worth. But in a nutshell, your company valuation, I know you've probably read so much on the internet about how to do it, about discounted cash flow models, about this and that. And in the end, when it comes to an investor, that's not really how you're going to value your company, especially not in the GCC. In valuing your company, you have to hustle. So you're going to look at two things. You're going to look at, first of all, how much money do I need to reach my goals, to reach my revenue goals and how much I want to make, and how much I'm willing to give out of my company. So if you're not willing to give more than 20% and you need $2 million, you're probably going to value your company at $10 million. Now, the way it works in Silicon Valley, for instance, if you're a good team, a strong team with a very smart idea, they will always, and your pre-money you just started, they're always going to value your company at $1 million. So that's how you do your seed investment. But later on, when you have some traction, when you build the platform, I would never give more than, in the first round, I would never give more than 20% of my company, because I know that I'm going to reach a certain level, and then I want, and this is, by the way, mostly for tech investments. Maybe it works different for F&B and retail or any other industry. But usually for tech, I wouldn't want to give more than 20%, and then I want to go for a second round, which probably I will not give more than another 10%, but because I've done so much with what I raised the first time, the second time I go for fundraising, my valuation has to be significantly higher. So let's say I need $2 million to reach my goals, $2 million, and I'm only willing to give out 20%. So you're going to tell the investor, my pre-money valuation is 8 million, so with your 2 million, we're going to become 10 million, I'll give you 20% of my company. So now, the tough part is going to be explaining, or how do you convince the investor you're worth $8 million without their money today? And how with their money you're going to be worth 10 million? So that's when you're going to get into the discounted cash flow model or any other model that you may choose to go with. So $10 million means that in 5 years, I'm going to have to make X amount of revenue. And then there's something called a multiple, so you multiply it by 20 and then you discount it at a rate of 40%. This is very easy to do. You can simply put what's your net cash flow in an Excel sheet for 5 years, and then in another cell you write equals NPV, open brackets, put the numbers, it's going to calculate your value today. So this is how I work it. A lot of people, what they do is, they start with, okay, this is how much money I'm going to make. This means this is how much I'm valued at. But in reality, I need this much money, I'm only willing to give this percentage. So that means I have to make this much by the 5th year. So how do I make this much money? And I will adjust my plan to the valuation. It's not the best way to do it, but it will get you the investment. And sometimes it works, because sometimes either you're going to know that, okay, this business will never work, because I will never be able to reach that revenue, and I will never be able to be valued at that. Maybe I should be looking at something else. And sometimes you have to also take that decision to know when to let go of a business. You're not going to live forever. They say that you have enough time to work on 6 or 7 different startups. So you have to choose them very carefully. You have to be very wise in the choice of your business, which startup you're involved in, how you want to go about it, how you want to, become successful. So you have to have, there's a lot of elements that come into play. So your personality, how you deal with things, it's tough, you know, you have to keep on pushing, and you'll be able to do it in the end. And my last advice is take as much help as you can from people around you. Don't be shy to pick up the phone and say, listen, man, I'm suffering here and there. What do you think I should do? Don't be shy to even share your idea with people. A lot of entrepreneurs, the first thing he says, okay, I need your help. Tell him, okay, what's your business idea? Oh, I cannot tell you, you're going to steal it. No, man, I'm so busy with what I'm doing. I'm not going to steal your idea. You know, I'm here to help you. And if you have, and usually it's not the idea that's going to get you there. It's your perseverance. It's your how you're dealing with things. It's a lot of other elements that have to do with your success other than the idea. So it's okay to share your idea. No, not everyone has your passion for what you want to do. So share your idea with people. I'm sharing with you some of the most intimate slides I have on my laptop, which is my pitch deck. A lot of companies will never show you their pitch deck. But for me, because I know even if you try to copy me, which is a healthy thing, you know what, the market size is enough for both of us, but probably I'll drive you out of business. So don't do this. But in any case, share your idea with people, get people's input. You're not always right. Some people have really good ideas. One GCC changed so much since we started. I'm also involved in another startup. I'm also CEO of so I don't know if you've heard of Skiplino. Skiplino, from day one, when we started talking about it around 3 or 4 years ago, till today, it changed so much. It started from 1 app, today it's 15 apps. And I keep on saying this is my last piece of advice, so I have a lot of things to say. Another thing is also give back. You know, احنا, especially here in Bahrain, I mean, us as a company, we try to hire as many Bahrainis as we can. Our Bahrainization today is around 95%. Skiplino, by the way, is a global app. We have 40 clients we started with around the globe before we signed any client here in Bahrain. And that was done fully with a Bahraini team. Every single developer. Even the Android developer, we had to change her chair twice because دفتها سوت الكرسي أسود. فتخيل تدش واحدة محجبة لابسة دفة. She's an Android developer and she was excellent, you know. And she built the Android app that after she finished, we got awards from the Next Web in Amsterdam. We were featured on TechCrunch. We were featured on ArabNet as one of the top 5 startups. And it's not impossible. You don't need developers from here and there. Everything you need, you have it here in Bahrain. You can do it. It's just a lot tougher, but you can do it. It's doable. If we can do it, anyone can do it. And there are other stories, by the way. Do you know that in Bahrain we have a startup, a tech company that's worth more than $400 million, and they actually got an offer from an investment bank at $300 million. They didn't sell it. Does anyone want to give a guess which startup that is? It's a tech company that started a long time ago. Kura.com. Dosiri. He didn't sell, maybe because this was something that's close to his heart, and he's already a well-off guy, but he's very smart, and he built something worth hundreds of millions, and they got an offer. And I know the guys that gave him the offer. So it's doable. You can do it here in Bahrain. So that's all I have to say, and I wish you all the best of luck. Please.